We are done with a lot of things. We are done with concept of object-oriented programming, and we learned what is static and non-static. We learned about constructors. We learned about the basic web drivers, right? Today we will be starting off with something that is interfaces. So the first question that would come into your mind is, what are interfaces, right? So let us just see that. Now interfaces are something, as the name says, they provide the interface to something. Now what is an interface? So in basic terms, it is a cover of the book, right? Say after seeing that thing, we get to know that what is inside, right? We get a quick idea about the thing that we want to use. So here, say, what all things can be interface? Anything that provides us the idea. In terms of Java, what happens is that we have multiple classes, right? Now suppose we would want to use something that should be available in all the classes, right? So suppose I'm having these three classes. I want something that all these three classes should implement, but in their own way. So how would we be able to do that, right? So there is something known as interface that will be helping us. How? Suppose I have a say function, right? Let us just have three functions. Say function A, then say function B, and say function C, right? Now this function ABC should have some different definition here in this particular class. B should have different definition in this particular class, and C should have different definition, right? In the same way, this particular class, the second class, should be having some other definition. So here the function names are same, and say C. So here the function names are same. Notice this thing, the function names are same, but the thing is that the data may be different, right? They can have their own implementation. Every class can have their own implementation. Now what is the benefit here? The benefit is that it is breaking in between. Just a second. Okay, so here what we would be doing is we'll create a new class, and say first of all we'll create a new package. So the package name should be day3. This is done. Now instead of creating a new class, what we would be doing is we will be creating a new interface. Now what is interface? Interface is something that will be providing us say thing that a class can't do, right? Let us just see that in some time. Let us just decide the name. So consider the interface name as phone. Now we have phone interface, and say this phone interface has few things here. Say we have a few things that we would want to use. Say public, right? Then say void call. Now with the phone we make a call. With the phone we send SMS. Public void SMS, right? Now the thing is that we do make calls and we do send and receive SMSs. But the thing is that every company implements this thing in a different way. How? For example, here consider there are different phones with us. Phone 1, phone 2, phone 3, phone 4. Now there are 4 phones, and all these phones have the same functionality, call, a common functionality, call and SMS, right? So call, SMS, call and SMS, and the last thing as well, say call SMS. Now the thing is, these phones are not from the same company. Suppose this one is made by Apple, this one is made by BlackBerry, this one is made by Samsung, and this one is made by OnePlus, right? So there are phones from 4 different brands, and there are 3 different operating systems. This one is running on iOS, say it is running on BBOS, this one is running on Android, and this one is also running on Android. Right? Now the thing is that all these 4 phones should be able to communicate with each other, right? Now if you notice something, all these 4 phones have their different dialers. None of the phones dialers is matching, right? Suppose you open phone app in iOS, you see a different view, you see a different functionality there. In case of BlackBerry phone, you see different functionality. In case of Samsung phone, you see different functionality. In case of OnePlus phone, you see different functionality. But there is one thing in common. What is that thing? Calling. All these phones are able to communicate with each other, right? So there is a protocol that has been set that they should have this feature, right? So what we have done is we have told them that there is something that is a utter requirement of a phone, right? This needs to be fulfilled, that is call. A phone should be able to call, right? In the same way, we have to send SMSs as well. So this is the interface which is telling all these 4 classes, all these 4 phones, that this is the feature that needs to be here. Right? You have to implement it on your own way, but you have to implement this feature. So how would we be able to do this thing here in case of code? So we have created a phone interface. We specified only 2 methods, call and SMS. Now what we will be doing is we will be creating new classes, and I'll name them as, say, Samsung phone. Right? Now Samsung phone has something here. First of all, it will be having a main method, right? Or not? No, it won't be having the main method, right? What we would be doing here then? Say in Samsung phone, we want to have these features here, right? We want to know that what all features that Samsung phone has to implement. What we can do is we can simply tell Samsung phone to implement phone interface. By just specifying this particular line, immediately we got a error here. We got a suggestion on Samsung phone that it has some unimplemented methods that we need to implement. Click on add unimplemented methods, and by default 2 methods will come up, call and SMS. Now we can have our own custom code here. Suppose I print something here, say Samsung phone call, right? In the same way, I can specify something here, system.out.println, and say Samsung phone SMS, right? A pretty simple thing. Now here, this part is done. We can create another class. How? Let us just see that. Now here, our phone is not saved, I feel like. Yeah. Just a second, let us just close other classes first. We don't need them. Okay, so phone is not saved. We need to save it. Then only it will be hiding those issues, right? Now let us just create another class. This time we'll create a class named as iPhone, right? So Apple phone. Here the same thing needs to be done. Apple phone also needs to implement say phone interface. Now what is the benefit here? The same functions need to be implemented here as well, right? So here it is not suggesting us anything here. So what we have to do, we need to implement those unimplemented methods ourselves. Say override, right? And what is the method name? Public. Say void and call. So this is done. Now call needs to be implemented here, so we can print out something here. Say system.out.println, and I would like to print say iPhone call, right? In the same way, we need to have another method. We can add unimplemented methods. Now it is suggesting me. I don't know why it was not suggesting me earlier. So system.out.println, and here SMS using say iPhone, right? So I have just specified some information here. Now the thing is that there are two classes, Samsung phone and Apple phone. Here we have two things, right? Say, just a second, it should be in the same format, right? Now there are two different classes which are implementing the same thing, and the function names are not changing. Now let us just create a test phone class which will be allowing us to test the phone. So here test phone. Now in test phone we will be having a main method. So main method. In this main method, what we would be doing is we would be creating objects of the phones, say these classes. So here Samsung phone, and say Samsung phone equals to new Samsung phone, and we can call these methods. Say Samsung phone dot call and Samsung phone dot SMS, right? Now if I run this code, you would notice something. You're getting the output Samsung phone call and Samsung phone SMS. In the same way, I can initialize the class for this Apple phone, right? And this will work for me here as well. So say Apple phone, say equals to new Apple phone, and the same thing Apple phone dot call and Apple phone dot SMS. Now if I run this, you can see the output like this: Samsung phone call, Samsung phone SMS, iPhone call, iPhone SMS. So both of these things are getting printed, right? Now the thing is that there is one thing in common. The function names are always common. So what interface does? It specifies that it declares the things, it does not define the things. So we are just declaring that functions. So what we are declaring, we are simply declaring that we need these functions to be there in all the implementing classes. No matter what, they have to implement these things. Now let us just create one more class. So we can have any number of implementing classes. It doesn't matter how many number of implementing classes we have. Say we have a class named as OnePlus phone, right? We can add the interfaces here. We can choose the interface from here, phone. From day 3, Selenium Basics SRC, click on OK and you're done. By default, it will be doing all the things itself, right? You don't have to write the methods here now. You don't have to look up for the errors. It is already done. We can simply specify the data here. So system.out.println, say OnePlus phone call, and here OnePlus SMS, right? So a pretty simple thing, but it is being done in a way that it allows us to have the same function names, right? So This is done. Now let us just try running this as well. So going back to test phone, I'll initialize the object for 1 plus phone. So 1 plus phone equals to new 1 plus phone, and here 1 plus phone dot call and 1 plus phone dot SMS. Right? Control F11, and you can see this thing here. The call and SMS methods are getting called and they're printing in the information as well. Now, as we are using interface, we are having some dynamics here, right? Let us just do one thing first. Suppose I have this data in a variable and I just want to use one phone, right? Say I just want to choose the phone dynamically. So what I'll do, I'll just comment out this particular part of code. So here, what we would be doing is, we would be specifying few things. Say we would be having a variable. Shwetna, I'm coming to that point. Just wait a minute. Just be with me. So here we have a variable, say string phone name, right? Or phone type. So phone type is a variable which is having the data, say Apple. A very small information. Now we can have a conditional stub here. If phone type dot equals, whenever we have to compare the data, we compare the string type data like this. We do not use equals to mark here in case of string. So here dot equals to, what it should be equals to, Apple, then else if and say phone type dot equals to, say Samsung, and the last one is say this, that is phone type dot equals to OnePlus, right? Dot equals OnePlus. So we have these three phones now. Now for all these three phones, we need to have their particular information specified. This one is for Samsung, so this goes here. This one is for OnePlus, this goes here. And this one is for Apple, so this one goes here, right? Now I'll just uncomment the code everywhere inside this conditional statements. So now let us just try running this code. Control F11. Only one phone will be initialized and the method should be called for that particular phone. So this is for Apple, this is for Samsung, right? Control F11, and you can see the output. It's a Samsung phone call. Now here the thing is, if you notice something, we are repeating the lines of code. Every time we are repeating the lines of code. Now the benefit of using interface, why we specified an interface and then we are say working with these. The first benefit is that it is providing a frame, right? Frame is okay. So next thing, what's the next thing that it is doing for us? The next thing is we can use the implementing classes in a separate way. How? Let us just comment out this part of code. Now what we would be doing is we would be specifying something that would allow us to create objects and work with those objects in a separate way. Remember something, whenever we create a new object, we use the class name, say Apple phone, right? And then we specify the reference variable, say reference variable name, right? Object reference variable name, say phone, then equals to we create a new object. what if we do something instead of specifying the class name here, right? Instead of specifying this class name here, what if we do something? We try specifying the interface name. Would it be possible? Let's see. It is possible. You can see that it is working fine. We can create the object. We can allocate the object to this object reference, and even we can call the methods as well. So say phone dot call and phone dot SMS. What is the difference? Let us see that. Control F11. You can see now iPhone call is getting printed and iPhone SMS is getting printed. Now what if I change the object here? Instead of Apple iPhone, I would want to use OnePlus phone. So OnePlus phone. I'll run this code and you can see the difference here. By just one point change, one line change, and everything got changed accordingly. So what is the benefit here? This means that interface allows us to allocate it the objects, the interface variable, right? The object reference variable of an interface. It allows us to map the or provide the addresses of the implementing classes. Now what is the benefit here now? So remember this particular part of code where we had a little lines of code. Let us just copy this code once again, and I'll copy it completely till this line, right? Control C, and I'll comment out this particular part of code. And here in the next line, I'll specify this code again. But now there would be a little difference. What is the difference? Let us just see that now. Here, after this phone type, I'll specify something. Say phone equal, say phone equals to null. I can keep it null. Then here, when phone is equals to Apple, phone should be allocated the object of Apple phone, and these methods should not be called. Then if phone is equals to Samsung, right? Say phone type is equals to Samsung, then what needs to be happened here? It should be calling phone. Say it should be having the object of Samsung phone, and it should not call the methods here. So we have to remove these methods everywhere. Now where we would be calling these methods and where would be having these methods implemented? Outside this if condition, phone dot call, and here phone dot SMS, right? Now let me just uncomment this particular part of code. So this is the code now. Let us save it and run it. Now what is the difference here? We are dynamically selecting the phone name. I can choose any name, say plus OnePlus. Control F11. You can see that the information regarding OnePlus is getting printed. I'll change the phone name here, say iPhone, or say Apple. It will be printing info regarding Apple phone here, right? So here what is happening? It is just providing us an interface with which we can say we can call the methods which are defined by the interface itself, right? Sorry, which are declared by the interface itself. Now what if a Samsung phone implements its own function? They create assistant Bixby, right? So here public void say Bixby, right? Bixby is a feature that is completely available in a Samsung phone. So here system.out.println, and here we can have the say data printed as Bixby, right? Nothing else. In case of Apple, we have Siri, right? So here we can create a method public void and say Siri. So we have Siri here now. We can print the information say Siri assistant, and I can specify Bixby assistant over here. So both of these things are done. Let us just save this code. OnePlus phone. OnePlus phone is not having these features. It is away from these features. Now here in testphone.java, let us just try calling this Bixby method. Phone.bixby. If you notice something, it is not allowing me to have that method here. Right? What does this mean? Let us just try using Samsung phone here. Right? Sorry, Apple phone is already selected. So we can have say phone dot say Siri. It is not showing up here. What is the issue? The issue is that we can call only and only those methods which are say declared by the interface itself. So these are the methods which are declared by interface, call and SMS, and we can call these methods from the object reference of the interface itself, right? To work with the proprietary methods, right? Say Siri and Bixby, what we have to do is that we need to make use of the say class here, right? We cannot make use of interface say object reference. We need to have class object reference initialized. For example, control / and here I'll specify Samsung phone equals to new Samsung phone, and here I'll print say phone. I'll just call the methods say phone.bixby, phone.call, and phone.sms. So these are the three things. Let us just try running this code. And if you notice something, Bixby assistant is showing up here now. Now this clearly means that we can call the methods declared by the interface from the object reference of an interface, but we cannot call the methods which are declared by the class itself. For that we need to use the object reference of the class like this, right? Now how it is helpful in case of Selenium? So here what we would be doing is we would be quickly going to the official website of Selenium, that is selenium.dev. And here in this site, if we scroll to this download section, if you go to this download section and scroll down, and we go to this API docs. In API docs, if we scroll down to the bottom on the left side, right, it will be showing you few things. Say it will be showing you something named as Webdriver. Notice something, it is in italics in the left section. So it is an interface, right? And there are implementing classes for this interface as well. We have Chrome driver, we have Edge driver, event firing WebDriver, Firefox driver, Internet Explorer, Opera, remote WebDriver, and Safari driver. All these browsers implement this WebDriver interface. Now what all things are say defined here inside WebDriver interface? So there are the methods which are declared, right? That is, we should have a close method which should close the current browser window. Now every browser has its own functionality, so it will be going through with that particular functionality, right? Web element, we can find the element, we can find elements, we can get element, we can get current URL, we can do a lot of things which are specified by the this particular interface itself, right? Now here this means that all the implementing classes such as Chrome driver would also be having these methods, right? So if you notice something, we made use of some of the methods in the last lecture. The first one was quit, second one was navigate, right? And any other say method that we used? Yes, driver.get. So we use this particular get method as well. So these methods are defined by the web interface, say this WebDriver interface, right? Now this means that we can initialize the browsers in a different way now, right? And we can have the browsers specified dynamically as well. So here what I'll do is I'll create a new class. I'll name this as dynamic browsers, right? In dynamic browsers, what all things we need to have? First of all, we need to have a main method. Inside the main method, what we need to have? We need to say, first of all, get to know that what kind of a browser we would want to use. So string browser name. Now what is the browser name? Say it is Firefox, right? So this is done. Now here I've made a spelling mistake, browser. Okay, so this has been rectified. Now Firefox browser name has been specified, but still our code is not that dynamic that it would allow us to say open the browsers dynamically. So what all things we need to do? First of all, we need to initialize Webdriver Interface, right? Webdriver driver equals to null. So this has been initialized now. Right now it is empty, but in the coming time we would be populating it with some values. So if a very simple condition, browser name dot equals, what is the browser name? Say Chrome. If it is equals to Chrome, then what needs to be happening here? Driver should be equals to say new Chrome driver. So here this is done, new Chrome driver. Now if in case this is not the browser that we would want to use, we can use another browser as well. So say browser name else if say browser name dot equals, now what is the browser name? Say it should be equals to Firefox this time. So here driver dot say not dot get, we need to initialize the driver. So driver equals to new say Firefox driver. Now what is the difference? In this particular case, Firefox driver will be initialized, and in this case Chrome driver will be initialized. Let us just have two browsers here right now. So I've chosen Firefox. Let's see what happens. What I want to do is I just want to quit the browser once it opens. So driver dot quit. Control F11 is the shortcut key, and you would see something. We are getting an error. So executable is not specified. Webdriver.jco.driver. What needs to be done in this case? So what we have to do is we just need to move that particular file, the WebDriver file, inside that particular folder. So in essentials, we have this Jco driver which needs to be moved inside WebDriver, and this is done. Now coming back to code, we can try executing the code now. So control F11 and let's see what happens here. You can see the browser is opening now. The browser will open and immediately it will be closing, right? Because of the code that we have specified. And here this is done, right? I can change the browser name. It doesn't matter which browser I am using. So say it instead of Firefox, we will be using Chrome. So control F11. Now you can see that Chrome is getting initialized, and here the browser will open and it will close immediately according to the condition you have specified, right? A very simple thing. Now what is happening here? In the WebDriver interface, we have the methods that we usually use. Driver.quit is one of the methods. We have a lot of other methods. Say driver dot say navigate, right? Remember this method that we used here in the last lecture? We can use this again. right? And I would want to go to say https www.facebook.com. So here this part is done. Now let us just try running this. But before running this, let us just get some information from the page as well. So here system.out.println, and just a second, what happened? Yeah, system.out.println, and I would be getting some information. So driver dot get title. We'll just get the title. For navigating, we don't have to print anything because it won't be returning any data. So we just have to say retrieve the data here, right? So here this is done. Let us just try running this particular code, and it is telling us that there is a problem. What is the problem? So driver.navigate. Driver.navigate is a function which navigates to the page, but it is incomplete. Navigate cannot navigate directly. We need to make use of a sub method named as to. Right? And then we can specify the string URL that we would want to use. So this is the URL, control F11, and here you can see that the browser has opened. It will be taking us to facebook.com. Once the page load is complete, it will simply close the browser and it will be printing this information, right? So this is how it is working. Now I hope you guys have got the idea how this particular interface thing is working. Why it is important? Because we cannot initialize the classes again and again. The benefit is that we can simply make use of one object reference variable and we can allocate any class to it according to the need, right? So whenever we would be working with this particular say interfaces, say whenever we would be working with say browsers, dynamic browsers, right, we won't be making use of a code that is not dynamic, right? What we would be doing is we would be making use of this code which is conditional, which runs according to the browser you have specified, and then it allows us to say do the things accordingly, right? Now here there are few things that are done. We are done with the interfaces. We are done with need of an interface, concept of an interface, use of interface in Selenium and Webdriver Interface. The next thing is exception handling. This is something which is very, very, very important, right? You're writing the code, that is okay. But the thing is that no one is perfect in this world, right? We get to see the errors. Even I get to see the errors, right? I've been teaching Selenium from so long and still I'm getting errors. This happens. So the question is how you get to understand those errors, how you get to see the errors and you resolve those problems, right? So how would we be able to work with that? It is simple. Let us just have say a new class, say exception example, right? This class has a main method. What happened? Okay, main method. Now inside this main method we would be doing few things. Say we would be first of all say we would be having the data, say int I equals to 0, then int j equals to 10. We can print these as well. So here system.out.println I and say system.out.println j. If I run this code, you can see the output 0 and 10, that is okay. What if I try to do something? Int k equals to I divided by say j divided by I, right? Now it is something which is mathematically not possible. How? We cannot divide anything by 0. So here if I try to print something, say k, let's see what happens. Control F11. You can see that we are getting error. Exception in the thread main java.lang.arithmetic exception divide by 0 at day 3 dot say exception example dot main exception example dot java 9. What is this whole thing? The first line is telling us that what kind of error we have got. It is divide by 0 exception. There are no errors in Java, there are exceptions, right? Next thing is, say where it has come up. So if you notice something, it is telling us the line number 9. If I click here, it will be taking us to that particular line number. There is a problem here. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to divide j by 0. I can change the value here. Say I can simply substitute 1 in case of 0. What would happen? Now this will work absolutely fine. Control F11 and you can see that it is printing in this information, that is 1 10 10, which is correct. But immediately if I make change here, immediately if I make it as 0 once again, control F11, it will simply throw up that particular exception, right? So we have got the exceptions. Now how we got to know that where is the issue? Issue is always told over here in this exception stack trace. This is called as exception stack trace, the part of code that I've highlighted, the part of output. Now it is not always 2 lines, it is usually higher as well, right? So it can contain any number of lines. The thing is that this particular part tells us that where is the issue, right? And here specifically it is telling us that line number 9 is having the issue. Line number 9 is having two things, j and I. So j is not 0 but I is 0. So actually the error is coming up from line number 5, which our IDE will not tell us. But still we are getting this particular information here, right? Now what if we would want to debug the code? Is it possible? Yes, debugging is very easy. And for debugging the code there is a separate view as well. So to help to get to that particular view, what we have to do is that we just need to go to window, then here perspective is the option. Click on open perspective and click on debug. A few things will change here now, a few things here and there would be different, and now we are inside the debug perspective. What is the benefit? Now suppose if I'm running this particular code, it is simply throwing us an exception immediately and it is telling us that where is the issue. Suppose I am interested in getting the data. What is the data? I'm interested in checking the data. Where is my data? I can add up something that is known as a checkpoint. So here in line number 5 I added a checkpoint. Control F11 will execute the code. But to debug the code we can hit F11 key itself. Now here you can see that few things are executing. Let us just allow access, and here say I did allow access. If you notice something, the code has paused now, right? So the code line number 5 is highlighted, the code has paused, it has not executed yet. If you notice the value of I, it is empty. The moment I hit F6 key, F6 key is the key that allows us to move the cursor to the next line. Now I is initialized, I can tell us what is the value inside it. I is 0, right? And then F6 again, so it will execute the code line by line. Here I'm at line number 7, which is not executed yet. Line number 6 is already executed, but 7 has been omitted for now. If I hit F6 now, line number 7 is executed and we can see the variable coming up here, j, which is 10. If I hit F7 again, sorry, F6 again, line number 8 will also get executed and we can see the information getting printed here, right? Now if I hit F6 again, the code has paused at line number 9. Hit F6 again and you can see that there was the error and it has caused us trouble. At this particular point of time, we knew that j is having the value 10 and I is having the value 0. K is trying to divide j by 0, which is impossible, right? So that is why it is giving us, say, arithmetic exception. This means that can we have our debugger specified anywhere? Yes, we can. Now what I'll do is, in dynamic browsers, I'll specify the, say, code comment here. Sorry, breakpoint here. Now I'll add up another breakpoint at line number 16. Now if I run this code, right? Remember, I'm not debugging this code, I'm running this code. The code will not pause anywhere and the browser will open and it will be doing all the stuff that you want it to. Let us just close this. Now here, what we would be doing is, say, we would be debugging the code. F11 is the key that we have to use. Do not make use of it with control key. Control F11 executes the code, but F11 key debugs the code. Now here the code has paused at line number 9, and if I hit F6 key, the cursor will move to, say, the next line. But if I hit F8 key, the cursor will move to the next checkpoint, right? So here it is done. And just a second, why it is opening browser? Okay, I did open browser here. I'm sorry. Let us just run this code once again. So the code will pause at line number 8. We have to manually let it know that the code can be executed, right? So either F6 or either F8, we will make use of F8 key. And here, what happened now? We got an error. What is the error? A very big error, which is at line number 12, right? It is not able to initialize the browser. Why? Please see Chrome driver security considerations for suggestions on keeping Chrome driver safe. It is not able to interact with the Chrome driver, what I feel like. Say, let us just stop the execution of this code. Try debugging the code once again. Hit F6 key and what happened here? Just a second, guys. Let me just rerun the code. I'll try running the code directly for once. It is executing fine. So it will open the browser, it will open the page, and then it will be closing the window. That is okay. Here, now what we have to do, we just have to debug this code. For debugging the code, there is a button like a bug. Just click on it and it will start debugging the code. The code has paused at line number 9. If you hit F6 key, the code will move to next line, and we can see the variables here. Browser name is having the value Chrome. F6, driver is null right now, right? Now browser name and the browser that we would want to use, both are Chrome. So line number 11 will be executed. So F6, line number 11 is executed, right? It has checked that this is the browser name. Line number 12 needs to be executed now. It is executing. And here driver is null right now. It won't be null now, right? So browser will be opening in some time. And you can see that Chrome is opening. Once browser has opened, the value will be changed from null to something else. You can see that now it is telling us Chrome driver, right? Browser is opened. Now what's next? Suppose I just want to move to the next lines now, right? My code is at line number 13. I want to jump to line number 16 directly. Hit F8 key. F8 key will move the code to the next available breakpoint. If it is not available, it will simply move to the end of the text, right? So end of the code. Now here if I hit F8 key once again, the code execution will be completed properly, and you can see that login and sign up is printed, which is this line number 17, and then in the ending browser has quit, which was the line number 18, right? So we are able to do things with the help of this now, and the benefit is that we get to know that where is the issue. Suppose what happens is that we have these variables, and in rare cases variables say contain empty information. For example, this object reference driver was null, but then it was allocated Chrome driver. What if it is not allocated any driver and you're just trying to interact with the browser? If it is not having the browser, how would you be able to interact with it, right? And a simple problem was there, but you won't be getting to know because you didn't debug the code, and you tried executing the code directly. In some cases it worked, in some cases it failed. So when it failed, you are not able to get to know. So with the help of debugging in larger codes, debugging is very important because it gets to know from where the data is coming, what data is coming, and what data is getting processed, right? So which is very important here. Now we are done with debugging part, we are done with exception handling part, right? Now what if we know that a part of code causes trouble, right? But we don't want the code to be stopped at that particular point. Can we do something to avoid that thing? Yes. Coming back to exception handling, suppose we know that this is the line which is causing us trouble. Why don't we do something? The code should execute normally even after the exception has occurred. So system.out.println, I would print something here, say Abhishek, right? So here if I try running this directly, it prints my name directly in the ending. Control F11, you can see that it is not printing right now. It should have printed, right? But there was a problem here. Suppose I want to handle this problem in a way, that even if there is a problem, the code should continue executing, right? What I'll do, I'll specify some line here. By default k is 0, but at next line we define something here, right? K is equals to j divided by I. If I run this code, again the same error would be there. The code is not reaching this line number 12 at all. It is failing at line number 10. Now here, with the help of one change, with the help of only one change, we would be able to execute the remaining code as well. So that changes try catch block. In try part, we provide the code that may fail. In catch part, we handle the exception. So system.out.println, say E. We can get the information directly. Now here if I run this code, you would see something. Error was there, right? But the code execution did not stop. It executed the later things as well. And you can notice something. The error is java.lang.arithmetic exception divide by 0. We can print any information here we would want to. Say E dot, say here, these are the things that we can do, right? Get localized message, get start time, and a lot of other things, right? So here we can simply get message. Now it will be providing us the message in a different way. Control F11, you can see that it printed nothing. but we can handle the exceptions in any way we would want to. Suppose I just want to print something custom, I can do that as well. Say divide by 0, right? Control F11, and you can see that divide by 0 got printed. So here whatever information we would want to execute, we can do that. If we are getting exceptions and that does not say that is not the major part of the code, right? We can simply handle the exceptions caused by those things, caused by those elements, and we can say we can get to know the what was the error as well, even without stopping the execution of the code, right? So this is how we do exception handling, and this is how we do debugging. And the thing is that we won't be leaving these things here. Now exception handling and this try catch blocks, this debugging will be going with us for the remaining lectures. We can face issue anytime, and we can handle the issue very well with the help of these things, right? These concepts. So this was for today's lecture. If you have any queries, you can feel free to ask. Any queries?